The one-man production crew. Yeah. All right. What's up, everybody? We're back. Spread the Positive podcast. Here with one of my favorite people on the planet, Miss Dr. Jen Massie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm so good. Always so good to have you in studio and just be in your presence. Talk about the textbook definition of spread the positive. You were right there. Definitely one of the definitions in the STP dictionary would be Dr. Jen. So pumped to have you back. It's been a minute. We got quite a bit to catch up on, but for the folks that don't know you, give us a little backstory of who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, I am a physical therapist by trade during the day.
Right.
But it really goes so much deeper than that. I would say wellness in general
Right.
is my biggest passion. Anything that helps people feel their best so that they can live their best lives, so that they can contribute to society.
That's
and
it.
Again, spreading the positive,
Yep.
like you said. I know it sounds silly, but my hobbies are smiling.
Like Buddy the Elf.
That sounds so cheesy, but I promise you that is absolutely true. Like in my free time, I'm like, let's just smile at strangers. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's
I love
true.
that so much.
I also love singing and dancing and
All the
gardening
creativity.
and all those type of things.
That's
Love God a lot.
Yep.
That's another one of my favorite things to talk about.
Absolutely.
That's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Yep,
right there.
that's it. You've definitely been you've been on the pod a couple of times and just always living out the message and the mission of God's love and STP, and it's funny how those really go hand in hand. So yeah, so let's get into it. I mean, we've done the backstory before. Let's do just a little recap again. Like what got you into this? I know you've had quite a journey that got you to the physical therapy stuff, and then the work with like within the nursing home and all the stuff that you've done. Just give us a 30,000 feet looking in, like
Okay.
how you got young Jen to where you are now.
Yeah. Well, I guess it all started when I was 14. I was a dancer and I was way too flexible, did not have a lot of stability.
Okay.
So I started having back spasms that were so bad. I remember sitting in English class, 14 years old, and my back spasmed so bad I fell out of my chair and I was stuck in the fetal position on the floor. And because I'm kind of a jokester, everybody thought I was joking. So the whole class is laughing at me as I'm crying in the fetal position on the floor.
I mean, that had to hurt so bad.
Yes, it was terrible.
Yeah.
It was just those muscles. I now know after physical therapy school, I now know that instability in my lower back, because I was so hypermobile. So those muscles guard to try and stabilize and protect. So strength, really, not just strength, but using the right strength at the right time, which is coordination, right? Was a really important thing. So that's ultimately what led me to physical therapy in the first place. But there was an interesting, you mentioned the nursing home. There was an interesting switch that happened. I feel like I've always had, being a dancer, I had really great posture and it wasn't something I ever had to think about. But when I got out in the workforce, I'd be treating patients standing up, but then I'd sit down to chart and we'd be charting for hours. And you don't think about it, but when you sit down and then you go to type and you're trying to remember what just happened and you're trying to recall all of that, your posture starts to go. And so it wasn't intentional hypocrisy, but it was just when my brain's focusing on something else, my posture started to go. So I started to have those pains again that I hadn't had for years because I had been so body conscious, so body aware of my posture. So those pains started to resurface, and it was like this big light bulb moment for me that like, oh, knowledge isn't power, it's application of knowledge.
Oh, bars.
Yeah,
let's go.
Yeah, exactly. So that kind of got me on this public service announcement kick. So I that was really what started my business. I started 3 years ago, Genergy for Life.
Right.
It was basically 26 stretches and exercises that were the most opposite of what we as a people do pretty consistently, right? Everything in our culture pulls us forward. It makes us want to have that forward head, that rounded upper back and shoulders, and then that kind of sway or arch in our lower back. And so the exercises that I made were just exactly the opposite of that. They were stability and posture. Strength in the glutes is really neglected for a lot of us, especially if we sit too much. So it was basically just my public service announcement class.
You've been doing those for a long time.
Yes, and they're so much fun.
I remember those.
And it's pretty much the exercises I give out to my physical therapy patients, but it's just the ones that I noticed were needed the most frequently. And those became my public service announcement pretty much. And that's what led me to doing the networking things. That's how I met you.
It was the first time a connection like with Bracken. Shouts to Bracken. With the pulse. I'm pretty sure that was it, right?
It was. It totally was.
Fluid Alchemy, or
I don't remember honestly.
I got a weird.
Maybe it's at Hop Springs.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh no, you know what? I actually know where it was. All right, I know who it was. It was Jessica.
Yes.
Fearless and Fabulous. I met her at City Cafe, and the very first time I met her, she's like, "Your energy is so positive." And I said, "That's funny because my business is Genergy." And then she said, "I have somebody you absolutely have
definitely
to
how
meet."
that happened.
And so
that's right.
And we had a lunch at Hop Spring. That's why I'm remembering Hop Springs.
Got you.
We sat down and
that's it. That's unbelievable. Shouts to Jessica as well.
Yeah. But then, so from the nursing home, I ended up working. I now work at an outpatient clinic.
I always like, you can't just gloss over that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's something that takes an exceptionally special person. And I've always really admired you for that. Like that takes a extremely special person. And the fact that you did that for as long as you did is a testament to who you are and why you do what you do. So I always just gotta slide that one in there for you, because I mean, I can only imagine how, I mean, we've had conversations off mic a lot about how hard that was for you, just everybody. So anyway, I always want a round of applause for that. Yeah, for sure.
Well, it definitely takes a subset of skills that I did not have. I knew that I wanted to work with the geriatric population. I feel like those are my people.
You just always known that, kind of?
Pretty much. I thought for a minute I might want to work with kids because I love kids.
Right.
But I had done a couple volunteer things and I was like, I like that, but it wasn't right.
Okay.
But I don't know. There's something about the geriatric population. I feel like they're underserved. I feel like every time they go to the doctor, at least one or two people tells them, "Oh, that's just part of getting older," which is rubbish. Yes, things change as we age, but that's not. That's not the end of the story.
You're right.
Actually, this is just a tiny tangent. One of my favorite research studies, they looked at the cross-sectional area of a quadriceps muscle, right? So they're basically looking at how dense and strong that muscle is. They looked at a 25-year-old, a typically aging 75-year-old, and a 75-year-old triathlete. The 75-year-old triathlete had the same muscle density as the 25-year-old.
Wow.
Which means that aging is only a fraction of the equation.
Choice.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
It's how we age.
There you go.
So honestly, that actually ties right back in, because my experience at the nursing home was fuel for my fire about how much I care about longevity right now. Right. Thank God that there are nursing homes for people who do need help, who can't live at home independently. But it is my personal mission to help as many people as possible not have to be there.
Let's go.
It should be a secondary option, not your primary option. And even friends and family members of mine have said, "Oh, well, when so and so goes to the nursing home." Pause there for a minute. Yep. That is not an if, and that it should be an if.
Right?
That's not. It shouldn't be that way for everybody, right? It should be an exception, not the rule. And I think even in healthcare, a lot of people just assume once you get to a certain age, you go to the nursing home, and that is not the case. It's about the way we move. It's about what we eat. It's about our stress levels.
Yes.
Ooh, we'll get into that in a minute.
100%.
But the nursing home really was it was challenging because I felt like a lot of times I saw potential in patients that would come in, but they were tired, which again can go into what you're eating and your mental status. And so people who didn't get better and ended up having to stay there that I knew could have made it back home. That was really, really hard for me. And our buddy Jack,
Shouts to Jack.
Yep.
Jackhammer.
Jack Christian's the Jackhammer. He introduced me to a term that I had never heard of before, but as soon as he said it, I knew that I was wearing it strongly. False ownership. And that was 6 years of wearing false ownership at the nursing home. Every time they didn't get better, it was my fault. It was because I wasn't motivating. And who isn't? And now I feel like since Jack shared that term with me, I see it in other people all the time. So it's like my favorite thing now to be like,
that's false ownership.
That's false ownership. Let's kind of deliver you from that right now. Because awesome. it tears you up inside.
Yes, it sure does.
Which is another good segue right there. I struggled with some serious gut pain. I had the beginnings of an ulcer, a duodenal ulcer starting because of how stressed I was. And some.
How could you not be? But yeah, go ahead.
The only way you are not stressed in a situation like that is if you are not having false ownership, right? Or you just don't care at all. And a lot of people, and this is heartbreaking, but a lot of people get really jaded and burnt out. They have to. It's a protective mechanism, you know. And I'm not saying there were a lot of really phenomenal nurses and the therapy staff I worked with that were just really good at guarding themselves and not getting into that place of false ownership. But it takes a really, really special person to be able to do that long term and not internalize it and not have those health issues, right? Burnout is so heavy on many caregivers, right? And it's about finding that place of you're caring and you're investing in somebody, but you're not letting it tear you up physically. I mean, I got a CT scan at 31 years old, thinking that, my insides were falling apart. Like it was like 10 out of 10 pain. I thought there was something like seriously wrong, at 31, and
that's predominantly just stress. I mean,
it was stress. And honestly, I share this very, very openly because it's not something I struggle with anymore. But I was so stressed and I didn't know how to cope with it. And I was walking with the Lord then too, but not the same way I am now. So I was going home and drinking pretty much every single night. Because I didn't know how to separate it, how to decompress. And it was the only way that I could kind of calm those, like if somebody passed away that day, like I would go home and cope, you know? And again, I only share that so openly because every time I share that with somebody else is like, yeah, I struggle with that too. And then you don't feel like you're alone. Like 100%. That is huge for caregivers. I'm not the only caregiver who used to cope in that way, and actually, Grant Smothers introduced me to a term, terminal uniqueness. And if you feel like you are the only person who is struggling with something, you feel isolated and you're so much less likely to get set free from that because you feel like you're all alone on an island struggling with this. So I don't know, maybe somebody out there needed to hear 100%. That. It feels better to have a good, healthy cut. And there are so many better ways to cope. And it's not like I was depressed. I was still a joyful person. I still loved life. I just could not, I couldn't separate those two, feeling sad for my patients and then ready to relax at home,
I can totally understand.
Yeah. So that led me on a gut health journey.
Hey.
So it was LT360 then, but it's Blue Umbrella now. And they do these really extensive blood panels. And we found that I had Hashimoto's. My inflammatory markers were through the roof. So I worked with the dietitian, Allie, and we did a lot with my nutrition. Again, walking closely with the Lord. I've been doing a lot more prayer and meditation. And let me tell you, there is something about sitting quietly.
I'll tell you what, just being still, right?
Yes, especially outside. Plants put out oxygen, which we need to breathe. But even just seeing plants, even just feeling the breeze on your skin, there is something. Sunshine, vitamin D. It sounds too simple, but it's not. There's so many better positive ways to fill your cup back up again. And again, moving back to caregivers are the worst at it. We pour into others so much. And then when we get home,
There's nothing
we're
left.
out. Yeah. And we don't take, I think part of it's we don't take the time to pour back into ourselves, but people also don't know what to do. Right. You wouldn't think it'd be as simple as just sitting outside, taking 20 minutes of complete silence where you're not focusing on your to-do list or your social media account.
20 minutes of complete silence. That's hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, complete because there's birds chirping.
Sure,
and
but
dogs
still,
barking,
just even just being that intentional with it, it's not easy either. So, hey, even if you have to start with like 3 or 4 minutes and then work your way up. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's 3 minutes is more manageable, I guess.
Yeah, but still, the fact that you're up to 20 is impressive. That's amazing. So, Blue Umbrella Physical Therapy. Go ahead and share the news, like the most recent accomplishment, which I think is, and you were telling me off mic all the kind of nerdiness that comes along with it, which is so you as well. But talk to us about what you. Just that whole process. I think that's something that's, the tagline, bringing light to what's going right. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a great example. So talk to us about it.
So I, gut health. So I have been on a gut healing journey since my time in the nursing home and the pre-ulcer and all that. And fixed a lot of it with food, but there was still, I would still have flare-ups, even eating healthy things like vegetables. I would still occasionally get these really, really bad gut flare-ups. And so it's something I've been working with a dietitian on, but a patient, her name is Massie Camp. And she, I guess I shouldn't say she's a patient, but she'd tell you that too. Right. But anyway, so she was talking to me about these probiotics, and this scientist, he's got his PhD in something related to the microbiome. But anyway, and he's teaching this course all about how to heal the gut via changing the microbiome, feeding the good bacteria, and helping to starve out essentially the bad gut bacteria.
Nice.
So anyway, I took this really, really, really extensive course, and I got a certification as a mental wellness coach.
Love that.
So the whole idea and all the research that he has is showing that, I mean, we know that the microbiome, right? It's a colony of bacteria in our gut, which is so weird to think about.
That is weird.
But there are more cells that are this microbiome than there are cells that are us. So there's more of them than us.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. Don't be freaked out. I think of it like a petting zoo, right? They're all my individual little farm that I've got going on. But the average person has 30 to 100 trillion individual bacteria in their gut.
Wow.
Right? Isn't that just take a minute
That's a lot.
It's so many.
Mm-hmm.
And then each person, has hundreds of thousands of different species, right? And the more species you have, the more biodiversity you have, the more your body can function optimally. So we know, I would say most people know that bacteria is in there to help digest food, to help move that process along. But what I would say most people don't know is what else that impacts, right? It can improve, it can change your mood, right? So if you don't have enough of the gut bacteria that make the neurotransmitters that make serotonin and dopamine, you're going to be depressed. Like there's no way not to be, right? But just finding out that link, and again, there's so much research on this, which I loved that the class was so research forward, because that's right up my nerdy alley. But just how much we can directly see an impact between changing this microbiome and changing your mood, your motivation, this is my new favorite word, mental vigor.
Let's go, mental vigor.
Your mental vigor. That's just your ability to not have brain fog, to think clearly, and to be able to focus, which, me, I feel like I'm sometimes a little squirrely and I can be all over the place.
Definitely. And me too. Yeah, right. That's what I meant. Sorry.
Well, and I
didn't say you were definitely sorry. I came out wrong.
Honestly, I'll literally be talking to patients, and in the middle of a conversation, I'll go squirrel.
Literally, same.
But that's so many of us, and the way we live our culture makes it even worse. Every time you get a ding on your phone, that notification distracts you, and we're almost set up for failure in that way, that we're so distractible we're so easily distracted
Right.
because we live in a distractible society.
Yes.
Right. Which again is why sitting out in nature is so helpful. But what was really cool to find out, and this Dr. Sean Talbot's his name, if anybody wants to look him up, he's a real cool dude. So anyway, he was talking about how in his nutrition practice, he used to be a food first supplement to fill in the gaps, which is exactly what I would say that my belief was as well. And then he said when he started formulating these probiotics and prebiotics, which are just the fiber that feed that probiotic good gut bacteria.
Right.
So when he started formulating these different strains of probiotic, he noticed that if he started with the supplements first, the probiotics that heal the gut, and when he started with that first, people automatically started changing their diet, automatically started exercising more because they felt better.
Wow.
So instead of like, I mean, I think the reason that so many nutrition protocols and diets fail for people is because it's really hard to be consistent.
Yeah.
You know, even me, I love nutrition. I care about it so much, but I struggle because it takes so much energy. It takes so much mental focus to decide what you want to cook, right? And so if you fix the microbiome first, then all of a sudden you have more clarity, mental vigor, and energy.
Yeah.
You're so much more likely to be able to sustain some of those changes.
So much sense.
So that's been a really big shift in mindset for me.
Right.
So I'm obsessed with the microbiome now
and
what it can do.
That is super fascinating. I mean, I think that's the perfect way to put it. Just most of us would associate or go the route that you said originally, and then the proof that you have now and the research that backs it up. I mean, that makes so much sense.
It's really cool, you know, and that's the good news. The other side of that is that what we eat can also really negatively impact it as well, right? We know that foods that are high in fiber feed that bacteria, and you know, as many different colored fruits and vegetables as you can get is going to increase your biodiversity. But if you're the typical American eating the standard American diet that's highly processed, highly full of sugar, full of salt, full of a lot of different chemicals in that processing process, then you're not going to feed that microbiome, which means you're going to have very low diversity, and your bacteria is not going to be able to produce all of those neurotransmitters that are responsible for so many metabolic processes in your body. And that's what we see. We're so stressed out. We're tired. We as a people are tired. I don't know anybody that wouldn't love more, that feels like they've got a rock solid amount of energy, including me.
Right.
You know, and I've
that's in
like
your name.
energy is in my name. And I'm
right.
still like, I'm more tired over the past 5 years than I ever have been. And even when I'm eating clean, I'm eating broccoli, mushrooms, and chicken. That's not very diverse, right? So the more we can stay away from, or at least cut back on the sugar and the processed foods and the refined sugars, exactly. And the more we can eat the rainbow. So even if it's like a green pepper and a red pepper, those are going to have different nutrients because of the different the different polyphenols in them, right? So the more that we can feed our gut microbiome, and supplementing with probiotics really is an important piece of that equation, so that you can set yourself up for success beforehand. But yeah, it impacts literally everything. It impacts our weight gain or weight loss, right? If you're eating that standard American diet and you're stressed out all the time, your body thinks there's this uncertainty, and for all your body knows, that could be a famine. So it's going to hold on to that weight, right? So it's the gut. It's all about the gut.
It's all about the gut. That might be the title of this episode. It's all about the gut. No, I love that. And it though I think one of your biggest gifts is making this stuff fun. You know, because like it's stuff we kind of know about, and you're like, but just the way you like present it, and it's all about the gut and stuff like that. Like, I mean, it's such a gift, and it's really awesome. It's always awesome to get your input on all the things that we need to know about. And
I'm already picturing the children's series
let's
version
go.
of this.
I mean, yep.
Where so I made up
Oh
a song,
goodness.
and this is even before talking about the gut, because like you said, we all know more fruits and veggies, less sugar. We know that.
We know
it's
that.
just so hard to sustain.
Right.
But a year or so ago on my YouTube channel, I made a song about cruciferous vegetables.
Of course you did.
And it was a parody to an Irish song because it was on St. Patrick's Day. And
I think I remember this one.
So ridiculous. but it was so, because this stuff can be really overwhelming and daunting. So I joke about that, but I would love to make a kids TV show that is teaching them about vegetables.
We need to figure this out.
It would be so much fun. And I'm already picturing the cartoon where the microbiome and in each of the little bacteria has like a face on it, and they're like singing and dancing about the kinds of foods that they like to eat. The kids would like that.
We have to make this happen. Yes. It's like Dr. Genergy meets Magic School Bus. Let's go.
Like,
we need to bring that back. But,
we really should. Okay, that's
I'm here for it.
I'm here
for it. We
Magic
got the stuff to do that now, so we can make that happen. We need to really look
all
into
the songs.
Yep, and we will green screen it up and just make you into a little Miss. What was the teacher's name?
I don't remember.
Man, I'm so mad at myself. Anyway, that's so good. So I mean, that's a really good segue into kind of some of the textbook or the questions we usually ask, just as far as some of the go-to tips and tips of the trade and tools in the toolbox for maintaining a positive mindset. I always like to hear the latest and greatest approaches to what you got going in that regard. I know we've kind of touched on that a little bit, but what are some other ones? I know you mentioned being quiet, being still, and really being aware of it's all in the gut, right? But what else you got? What else is really working these days?
All right, let me see if I can sum it up, because it's honestly it's kind of the pillars of wellness, if you will, right? Because all that whole person approach is so incredibly important. And if we want to have a positive attitude, it's not about just one thing. It's getting more consistent with several of the things. So if I had to kind of sum up some of the things,
it's about to be really good.
Hydrate.
Yes.
Holy cow, it's important.
Yes.
It's so like we undervalue it. It's another one of those things that people are like, oh yeah. No,
more water.
Stop. Drink more water.
Yes.
So hydrate, stress less, and by whatever means, right? I've got a couple of tips on that. They're cheesy.
Yep,
Warning you.
Cheese it up.
Smiling produces endorphins. So really, and I know a lot of people accuse me of like, oh, let's fake it till you make it. Yeah, start there.
Yeah,
start there. You can truly like even just your posture, and to me, smiling is part of your posture. If you're smiling, you're sitting up straight, and you're presenting yourself in a posture that you feel more happy,
right? You
will literally start to change some of the hormones that you're making in your body.
Yeah.
So
power poses.
Yeah, it sounds so cheesy, but I promise you, like neurochemically, you're doing something when you smile. And then another good stress tip, we already talked about sitting out in nature, especially water too. That's another good one. Looking at water, looking at plants, but singing. That's another one I get a lot of resistance from people on. You don't have to be singing in front of other people, but there is so much research behind people who sing are significantly less stressed than those who don't. So sit in your car, sing in your shower, whatever you need to do, but sing. So make a joyful noise. Okay, people, it's real. And that was my trick at the nursing home too.
Yeah.
If I was having a bad day, I would walk down the halls and I would just sing my tail off, and it is contagious.
Yeah,
other people will be picking up that song halfway through. So they're
they're
little tricks, but think of them more like biohacks, right? Okay. So we got drink more water, stress less, eat more colors. So specifically fruits and vegetables. So eat more fruits and vegetables. And then the flip side of that would be less processed sugar.
Stuff,
less processed foods. And start with less. It's nobody's going to get it perfect. And if you try to make it perfect, you're going to fail. And you're actually going to eat more of the stuff you don't want to eat. So give yourself some grace in general. That's really good. Another one, very supported by research, gratitude.
Yes.
If you had to pick one big strategy for your overall mental wellness, gratitude's definitely up there.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be these big grandiose things. Just 3 things you're thankful for. I'm thankful for our friendship, for my dog and your dog, and all the amazing people that are in my life right now that are constantly reminding me of these things.
Let's go,
and then sleep.
That's it.
Sleep would be it is so much more important than we give it credit for. And yes, you really do need those 8 good hours of sleep.
Well, I think we can wrap it up. We did it. We spread the positive. that is it. I'm just kidding. No, that is it. I love that. So hydrate, stress less. So that can be exercise, obviously exercising, and just
serving others.
That
falls into that stress less, because you're not going to think about your own problems.
Exactly.
If you're helping other people.
Bingo. The best antidepressant on the planet. Volunteering. That's right.
Yeah.
We say that all the time too. Well, that's awesome. What's going right? What's going right according to Dr. Jen Massie?
Okay.
Let's see what's in the world of Dr. Jen. What is going right?
Well, the weather has been nice lately.
Yeah. lots of sunshine.
I mean, honestly, the more I have conversations like this with people, the more I realize it isn't all doom and gloom. I know we live in some really, really shaky times. It's a fallen, broken world right now. But if you focus on that, it's depressing and it doesn't fix the problem.
Right.
So I would say what's going right is how many conversations I'm finding like this, right?
They're like addicting.
There are so many people out there that really do want to make the world a better place, right? We were at lunch here before I came over, and somebody was wanting to talk about politics and all the things that were going wrong, and I was like, man, that does not fill my cup at all. And it's not that those things are not important; they are very important.
Right.
But I want to do what I know I'm called to, the part of the solution that I'm responsible for, which is joy, right?
Yes.
My fruits of the spirit, I like to think about a lot. And the joy and the love and the kindness, those are the 3 that are really, really easy and natural for me. So start there, right? The peace and patience we're working on. But the love and the joy and the kindness, that exhortation is for sure my gift. So just ride that. Don't stress so much about the things that are going wrong, that are your weaknesses. Just really the gifts that you have, shine brightly in those.
Man, so good. Well, we're just flying through, and it's always there's always so many like tangible takeaways with you too. Like that's one of my favorite things about your episodes too. It's just like, well, this is something that's really worked for me, and also it's like very, very scientifically backed, and it's worked for thousands and millions of other people too. So I always really appreciate that with our with just you in general, like that. You really do live that out, and I think that's something to celebrate, just the way that you connect with folks. And even when you're in those situations, like you said, like you got somebody that's a little down and out, one to complain, like, I'm going to let you do that for a second, and then we're going to switch it up, like feel your feels, but recognize that there's a lot of stuff that we can do. Right.
Yes. And actually that's a really good point too. It's not that you have to be happy all the time.
Right.
And I
feel your feels.
Yep. I tell you, I get accused of that all the time. People are like, how are you always so happy? That's silly. I cry just like everybody else, because I care. Right. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, but feelings should be like tunnels. You go through them and then you're out on the other side. Don't stay there. Don't wallow. Don't let it drag you down, but honor what you're feeling. If you have something that's crummy going on, it's okay. If you've got a big test or something that's coming up and you're stressed about it, that's an appropriate response. Just don't stay there. It's when we stay in the chronic stress, when we stay in the chronic depression, that's when all of those inflammatory things spark up in our body. And then it makes this huge snowball that it's so hard to get out of. Honor what you're feeling, but emotions are tunnels, pass through them.
That's it. Heard it here first. All right, cool. What's on deck? What are you excited about? I know you got a fun trip coming up, and if you want to plug or just talk about that. And I think it's fascinating. I really want to tag along one time. So if you don't care, do you care to share some of that? I think it'd be pretty cool, and the listeners would appreciate it. So take it away.
Okay, so Jack Christians that we mentioned earlier, he had gone to seminary school many years ago, and ended up going a different direction, and then came back to the Lord, which is similar to my story as well. We're both prodigal children. But now he does a journey back to that monastery every year. And it's basically like a spiritual retreat, right? Where he goes to find peace, find quiet, find stillness, and time to just be with the Lord. And so this is my second time going with him. It's in Missouri, and we're going to be there for a couple days, I think 3 or 4 days that we're going to be there. And it's funny because people who know me are like, you do not seem like a monastery kind of person. And I'm like, I know, that's why I need to go. We're not, it's funny how people, they'll say, I'm not a math person, or I'm not a this, or
not
that.
A morning person.
Exactly. Like those things are tangible, right? they're malleable, So I know that peace is something that I'm a very energetic person by nature.
Energetic, gosh, it's so good.
But it's about balance. So I know that peace is something I really struggle with, and the fact that I'm not a monastery person is exactly why I know I need to be there. And I had such an amazing
I was gonna ask,
time last
what
time.
was the first time like? I mean, or what were some of the biggest aha moments, or
just not having all the other things that distract you. Even on my days off from work, there's the floor needs to be vacuumed. The dogs need to be taken care of. The food needs to be meal prepped. There are so many silent to-do lists. Even if your house is dirty, even if that's not on your list of things to do, it's a silent to-do list, and it's taking up mental energy. There was none of that there, and I guess you'd get that on a beach too, but it was much more quiet, which I really, 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 really liked.
Is it like silent?
Well, no, there are silent retreats where you're not allowed to talk. This was not one of those, but there were lots of moments where nobody wanted to talk. Right. So when you go into the basilica, which is their big sanctuary, you obviously have to be quiet in there. And we'd go in at 5 o'clock in the morning, and there'd be nobody in there but a few monks praying.
That's so cool. I bet that's so cool. It's got to be like the craziest energy.
It is. It's just so. It's so peaceful. And it's not to say that you can't have peace without the Lord, but I don't know how people get it without, because I didn't have it until I met the Lord. And being in a place where you don't have to clean your house, you don't have to cook your meals, where you get to just
exist,
be. It's that one of my favorite verses, be still and know that I am God. That be still part is hard for a lot of people. I don't personally know anybody that doesn't struggle with that. And it was a good jumping off point for me to be forced into that position, forced into practicing it. And now I joke that like, I'm going to go outside and get that monastery feeling.
Or like just try to find anything.
You can have it anywhere. You don't have to go to a monastery. It's just really, really hard to be that disciplined to not let since I'm in here, I might as well sweep the floor, It actually inspired me so much that I want to, and who knows when this will be, but I want to start a retreat center of my own with that being the specific.
I was reading that. I was like,
oh man,
so awesome.
It's gonna be so cool. And I don't know what that looks like right now, but I know that it's gonna be somewhere secluded enough that you don't see cars going by, that you don't hear traffic, that you can feel like you are away from the hustle and bustle, because we're not good at making ourselves do that. And then I know that I want to, in some fashion, have classes there where I teach about gut health in a fun way. There might be singing.
It's all about the gut. Little remix.
Yeah, I like it. But where I teach about the gut, where I teach some simple meal prep strategies, because that's really where we set ourselves up for success, is planning it when you're not coming home from a busy work day and you're already tired and stressed and you have no mental energy. But so some meal prep classes, some nutrition classes, and even some woodworking.
Let's go.
So there's something really, really cathartic and peaceful about working with your hands. And my husband, Levi Massie, does some woodworking in his spare time, and he makes these cutting boards that are absolutely beautiful. I mean, they're truly a work of art. Right. And so I'm envisioning almost like an Airbnb class style thing, where people come in, the pieces are already cut, and all you have to do is glue them together and then sand them. And now you've made this beautiful piece of artwork cutting board that will incentivize you to cook more at home. Right. And cookbook stands, that's the other thing I kind of imagine. So the whole idea would be, start out with like a day retreat where people can come and just do these really simple things that they can take home to be able to implement that monastery peaceful feeling at home, and then progress towards where maybe we do a weekend and there's some yurts around. I'm seeing maybe some goats, because goats are fun.
Alpacas.
Yeah, alpacas. Oh, that would be great too.
I want an alpaca farm. Me and my two best friends have talked about that since high school.
You can run the alpaca part of the farm.
I'm here for it. That would be amazing.
Because there's something about animals too. Mm-hmm. So there would also be like a big range for dogs to be running around. But just helping people, because it feels, everybody wants it. It's just that it feels overwhelming. People don't know where to start. So giving people a little bit of instruction and guidance in the beginning, and then maybe they would make it like a yearly retreat, like what we do to the monastery, where it kind of resets your year so that you can start with that peace as your goal in mind.
Yeah. That's so cool. I'm excited for y'all. I definitely want to tag along one day. Jack's extended the invite. I can't swing it this year, or this trip, but I want to plan ahead and figure out a way to do that, because I think that would be life changing, honestly. Just like my escape is, getting out to Barfield Park, and you can still hear, a lot of stuff, but still we're still blessed to have the things we have. But I would really like to have that like real deep peace and quiet, and like just major disconnect. So I'm pumped to hear about the second time around for you. I'm sure that's going to be amazing, with all the stuff that just all the wisdom, and just anytime Jack talks, you just listen and you're like, this is literal truth in God, like every single thing, pretty much. Even when he's joking around and playing, getting his little jackhammer comedy hour on, but he's still just such a special human being. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug the LT360 Coach's Health Show. It is so awesome what it's turning into with Jack and Dave and Grant and Coach. It's so good, honestly. Like, it's so good. And it's been such a life-changing thing for me here lately, especially. So huge shout out to those guys. They are just salt of the earth and way smarter than me, so isn't it funny how you get older and you learn to just really stop talking and just listen to the folks that really know what's going on. So Jen, I love you. I love you so much. I'm so grateful for who you are, what you do, how you carry yourself, and just what you bring to this world. You are a big old shining light for what's going right. So super grateful for you, and always supporting what we do over here at STP. So how can people find you, and what do you want to leave with the folks today?
Well, you can find me on Facebook. I'm Jen Dickens Massie, Jen with one N. I also have my Genergy for Life on Facebook, a little bit on Instagram, definitely on YouTube. I haven't been making as many videos, but you should go check them out, because they are so silly. They are funny. Like, I don't say that as a brag. That's just literally what I'm made to do.
You will leave with a smile. And if you don't, you might need to go get some clinical help.
Do you want to hear the the cruciferous vegetable song?
Yes, of course I do.
Broccoli, kale, arugula, cabbage, Brussels sprout, collard greens, and cauliflower. I can't do without.
Oh my god! Why
So
so
it's
good?
it's silly, but it's, gosh, man, life is boring and stressful sometimes. So
Yeah.
that's, I mean, just be the light, just
That's
smile.
it.
It's free. And I know it sounds so painfully cheesy, but I am living proof. I just did a Facebook Live about it the other day too. I was making laps, because movement is so important. But I'm making laps around the building, and I'm just smiling and waving at cars like I'm on a Christmas parade or something, and everybody's smiling back at me, and it's like free dopamine.
Let's go.
I mean, come on,
That's what
like
we
it's
need more
not.
of.
It sounds so cheesy, but just try it. Just try it.
Be nice to people.
Just be nice.
Hey,
just be kind.
that's what we do around here.
Yeah. So
that's what we do.
Keep shining.
That's it. Well, thank you for everything, Jen. As always, you're the best, and just always pulling for you and wishing you the best. So, hope the trip's amazing, and your Christmas is great, and the New Year's is awesome. And I'm sure we'll do this again sooner than later. You need a show. I'm gonna go ahead and put that out there. Come down. We will push record once a week, and you will talk your truth and have so much fun and sing your songs and
make up posture parodies,
all the things. But I'm gonna put it out there. The universe, or God, universe, everybody conspiring for the greatness that would come with that. So thank you to everybody that tuned in, and everybody listening. Be sure to like, share, subscribe if you are looking to be part of the network and be part of what's going right, and just bringing light to this stuff and telling people stories and putting your name on these shows that are really having a very positive impact on a lot of different demographics around here in Middle Tennessee. Please reach out. We got some really, really, really cool stuff happening going into 2023. So yeah, I'm just pumped. So thank you, Jen, and we'll do this again soon. All right.
Sounds good.
Okay, bye.
Bye.